when it comes to the NSE itself, all eyes were on Carbacid and BoC Kenya yesterday, both resuming trade after 4 years of being suspended. And from what I've been seeing, we've had pretty strong demand on both these fronts. Were you surprised by the reaction received?
Not really. Given the fact that the companies had not been trading for quite a while, the expectation was that depending on the performance of those companies since they were suspended from the market, we expected a lot of activity in the two shares. Now, for Carbacid, I have just looked at the figures today. It looks up by some significant percentage. In fact, the price is above 200 shillings now, around 250 to be specific. My view is that for Carbacid, I think we are seeing a run here, and the prices are going to be going up until a time when investors feel that the announcements that are coming out of the company are properly reflected on the price of the share.
Let's make some distinction there, because ahead of the trade comment, ahead of the trade of these counters, comment had been that there might be strong interest from local institutions, given their good earnings potential, but that retail investors may wish to exit after being locked in for such a long period of time. So is there a distinction to be made between, in terms of who's actually been active in these counters?
I think it will all boil down to how the performance of the companies will be. Remember, Carbacid has already announced a bonus issue and a significant dividend announcement. And given that fact, I think a lot of investors will be looking at the closure of the register date so that they are able to take advantage of that shareholder value creation. For BOC, results were down a little bit, but fundamentally the company is strong. My feeling is that we are likely to see more interest in Carbacid than BOC. Also, remember the fact that Centum had bought some stake in Carbacid, and this morning we have seen the price of Centum go up as a result. And my feeling is that going forward, investors, whether retail or institutional, are likely to be interested in companies that have good earnings.
What is your outlook for BoC Kenya specifically? Because we've heard rumors that, seeing that the talks with Carbacid failed, we might well see BoC Kenya start a company like Carbacid moving forward organically rather than going down any acquisitive route.
Yeah, that is true. The company had actually indicated that over time they will now be strengthening their operations, ensuring that the business they deal in right now is strengthened and earnings are improved before they can seriously venture into investing in Carbacid or carbon dioxide manufacture. And going forward, my thinking is that they may have been disinterested and over time they may have realized that it's not possible to acquire a company that is a key market leader in carbon dioxide manufacture. And going forward, I think organic growth in that sector is going to be what will be preferred by the company.
Before we go, let's check in on Safaricom and how the markets reacted to their numbers, which were released early on in yesterday's session. Yeah,
people are still digesting the information. Of course, earnings up around 7%. Going forward, I think already the information had been taken into the price. I remember some days ago Safaricom was trading at around 4 shillings per share. Now it's down to around 390, 395. Going forward, my thinking is that the market share of the company is likely to face some pressure, especially on the voice revenue. Of course, the data services section is going to be growing over time. The M-Pesa service also looking up. And going forward, I think that is going to be the case. So mixed results from the various segments of revenue generation for Safaricom. But overall, I think the earnings will be up probably between 9 and 12%.
On that note, let's leave it there. Justus Agoti of Sterling Investment Bank, thanks so much for having joined us this morning. Just to end off, Radel, I mean, of course, over in Kenya, we know that the economy is very dependent on tourism earnings. And of course, we are heading into the December period again, where we've heard already indications that tourism has started to pick up. We've got tea earnings, despite production being low, proving to be pretty resilient as well because of the high prices on offer. What's your outlook for the Kenyan economy moving forward?
Well, as you rightly said, the tourism industry is obviously surprised, but it did come off a very low base from last year. So tourism earnings, for example, up 10%, tourism arrivals up strongly, soft commodity prices have been quite strong. So the economy now, I think in the second half of this year is done quite well. That said, we still expect growth just below 3% for this year, well below previous rates of 6-7%. But I think we'll look for next year for a more substantial improvement in economic output to maybe well above 4.5%.